Foo Fighters to come back to here on MAB Weekly as we shift gears to the Region Sportsdesk show. Of course, we are doing the video right now. Not live video, will be up sometime tomorrow as we wave to the folks out there at Internet Land, YouTube, all that fun stuff as well. If you want to interact with us right now, if you're listening to Sports News, Mid-America Broadcasting on Facebook, on Twitter as well, at MAB Sports. Bob Atosky here along with JT Hoyle and a cameo by Joe Fadley, a special guest star appearance, I could say, from the days or whatnot. Actually, if you're a Lost in Space fan, you'd be like the Dr. Smith of Region Sportsdesk right now.
I'll take it.
All we need now is a robot. And on that note, JT, take it away.
Okay.
Danger.
Wow, it's already, think about it, it's already halfway through the season, week 5. I think we're starting to see kind of a separation from the contending teams to the teams that are probably maybe illusions to more pretenders than contenders. But guys, what were your thoughts last week? What really stood out to you? Joe, I'll start with you. What really stood out? Was there a particular game that really stood out, or any team?
Yeah, I believe the Lake Central Crown Point game, I think, was a big shock to me. I think Lake Central shutting out Crown Point. I've told you numerous times, I think Crown Point's still my pick to, I think they're my pick to go to semi-state to face Penn, or regionals to face Penn. And there goes our banner, but hey, it still looks good, right?
Well,
we blame the weather.
It's
raining cats and dogs out there, it's lightning, the house is rumbling. But yeah, I believe Crown Point, I still believe they're going to come out and win that sectional. They still beat Maryville. I think Maryville just causes too many turnovers. They'll play again. I believe Crown Point gets their heads on together and they beat them. But Crown Point putting a goose egg up against Lake Central kind of turned me off of that a little bit, though. What do you think?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there, Bob. What about KV and Hobart? That game really looked like Hobart had it early, but boy, the Cougars came on a charge in the second half.
Even though KV may have lost the game, that might be a game where they might have turned their season around. After a quarter, it looked like they had no business being in this game. They were held to 10 yards of offense after a quarter. They got a big special teams play. Aguilar with a bump block, runs it back for a touchdown, and then KV comes out the second half with an unbalanced 8-man line. They start running the ball down Hobart's throat. They take the lead with about 2:44 left on a 6.5-minute drive, but they missed the extra point. And then on the ensuing kickoff, a personal foul sends Hobart up to the 42. KV did a pretty good job, held him to 4th and 3, but Dre Devereux, who had a huge game, over 100 yards receiving, catches the big touchdown on 4th and 3 at 10 yards to kick the extra point. KV got the midfield at the end, but they just ran out of time as we are laying the banner in front of us here. I'll tell you what, that thing's got some war wounds right there. I'm telling you that right now.
But give us some character.
A big win for Hobart. I was also impressed with the way Lowell dismantled Griffin. I know it's not the Griffin teams of years past, but we've had this discussion last week, JT, which Lowell team was going to show up, which George Fields was going to be able to play, and they just ran the ball down Griffin's throat, and they didn't allow Griffin to get Justin Green going. He did have a special teams touchdown, but it was no dice.
Yeah, I guess I gotta send out a little apology to Mr. Hopkins, Tyler Hopkins. I said he wasn't a dynamic back, and he just came out and ran all over Griffin's defense, so I gotta send a little apology to him. But yeah, defensively, you think about it, Griffith scored 38 points on Hobart. They had one offensive touchdown.
They had over 600 yards against Hobart.
So, I mean, that just shows the difference. A great defense can keep you in games, and it seems like Lowell played their best offensive game of the season, too. It was really a complete performance by them, and that really stood out to me. So, let's move on to our picks. It's week 5, and we'll kind of go down the list. Of course, we'll have the big 3. We'll have a cheese headlock. We'll have a power play, and Slim Shady's pick of the week as well. So
that's a new one.
I don't know. Let's start Bowman Academy. They're at Boone Grove, and wow, Boone Grove got shellacked by North Jets. And I thought Boone had it in the bag. They were going to beat the Blue Jays, but wow, North Jets came out on fire. Boone Grove falls, their first loss of the season. How's that going to impact them this week, Bob?
I think Coach Tinkle's going to have this team ready to play. Bowman's had their struggles all year, Joe. I think Boone bounces back with a W Friday night.
Oh, no, I completely agree 100% with you.
Yep, I gotta take Boone Grove. Bowman's taking a big step back, especially offensively. I got the Wolves taking care of business. Let's move right into our game. One of our games. Joe, myself, Andy will be at Portage, Crown Point, taking on the Indians. Both teams really struggling offensively. Both teams looking for their first conference victory of the season. Who gets it done? I mean, Joe, we've seen this, for the last 8, 9, 10 years. I think Portage only won 1 or 2 games in the last, 9 or 10 tries against Crown Point. For some reason, the Bulldogs seem to always dominate this matchup. Is it going to be the case this week, or can the Indians rise from the ashes at home and find a way to get a W?
You know what, JT, I'm not so sure about this week. I really like Crown Point's quarterback, but I didn't know Portage's defense was going to be this good either. This is probably the best defense they've had in a while, the great front four. And last week we saw the Portage offense finally kick it up a gear. The passing game looked great. Gage Pierman looked solid, but the run game is still not there, which is a huge concern. Unfortunately, I'm still gonna. This is the last time all year long until sectionals. I'm picking against Portage, but I'm taking Crown Point. Sadly, on Friday night, and I think you're going to see a 2005-esque or 2006-esque run for the Indians. This will be the last game they lose all season until sectionals.
Bob?
Well, the offenses for both of these teams has been quite lacking in recent weeks. Portage doubled their touchdown total for the year last week. They hadn't scored since week 1. They were able to put 17 on the board. Played competitive for about a half before Maryville just big played them to death last week. Crown Point, I think, has got something to prove offensively. They were held to under 80 yards last week at the burial grounds. And how about the big news here? The first home game of the year for the Tri. They finally come home to the Warpath after the Marathon Road. I have never seen it before in regular season play, a team playing 4 straight road games at any point of the season. You see it sometimes in the playoffs.
They had to go to Mishawaka twice.
Yeah. And you mentioned that Portage defense. They held a pretty explosive Penn team to 32 points, too. So
yeah, they only had 2 yards rushing in the first half, which is, I think, remarkable.
This could be a game where points are hard to come by, but then again, we get 2 teams struggling, get 2 desperate teams trying to break into conference win. Maybe the offenses will break out. I just think Crown Point's going to find a way to get Tristan Peterson going, maybe start using Jadis if he's starting to get a little bit more healthier. I'm going to say Crown Point in a 21-14 type game they'll win on the road.
I think I got to agree with you as well. I could see that happening. You go back to last week, I think Portage played a pretty good first half, but they started beating themselves with turnovers, mistakes, fumbles, had kind of a fluky interception, a tip ball that was picked off. They can't beat themselves with turnovers, especially with how inefficient this offense has been. They can't afford to make those kind of unforced errors. And the run game, they just don't have a dynamic tailback that really that you have to game plan for defensively. That's their big issue. If they go back and they throw the ball 60-65% of the time with Pierman, he's a good short to medium range passer. Try to get Maldonado and get your big tight end. Get Vaughn involved more. He's got good hands. Try to get him involved in the passing game. The problem is I think Crown Point has a better defense than even what they faced last week in Maryville. I think Crown Point's defense is too good. Low scoring game. I like Crown Point on the road to get it done. I don't think they'll make quite as many mistakes as Portage will offensively.
The way though these defenses are capable of playing, it could very easily be a 4-3 type game too.
Maybe something like that. East Chicago on the road. They're playing Clark this week. Joe, does Clark have any hopes of competing in this game, or is this a whitewash for the?
Oh, Carter has a field day, big game. East Chicago wins this game by 33 at least.
East Chicago has outscored their last 2 opponents, Roosevelt and Gavitt, 124-9. Let's be honest, since their loss to Lake Central, gentlemen, this team has been practicing for the Board of Governors who are playing. They are playing at home a week from Friday. Clark is just going to be nothing more than a speed bump on the way to that game as far as they're going to run over. Okay, we'll slow down, but they'll win this game quite convincingly. Clark having a tough go. Only won 1 game a year ago. They're struggling. They're 0-4 this year. I thought they had a chance to win against Calumet a couple weeks ago. Couldn't get it done. They couldn't get their offense going. Last week's shutout against the Highland Trojans. I'm afraid it's going to be another long Friday night for Coach Novak and the Clark Pioneers.
Well, I think you guys make some valid points. I did watch Clark's game with Highland. I know I'm crazy. Why was I watching? I was bored. I just try to see as much as I can on different teams. They were a nice pistol offense. They were moving the ball up and down the field on Highland, but they just had too many mistakes. They had a lot of fumbles, a couple interceptions. Just stop themselves more often than that. East Chicago is a lot more talented than Highland is. Just see what's happened the last couple of weeks. They've been putting up 60 points, and they put 69 on Roosevelt, and they put a high point total last week. Expect the same this week as well. Cardinals win that game big. Gavitt playing at Roosevelt. Joe, I think Gavitt's gonna take care of business here. We all know the shape that Roosevelt's program is in right now. I think Gavitt, they've been competitive in every game they've played this year.
Except last week.
Up to this point, and I think Gavitt will get the job done. I'd see the Gladiators putting one on the board.
You know what, JT? Me and you, we played against that head coach against Roosevelt. We beat him, and so will Gavitt.
You look at the schedule for the Gladiators. They have a chance to get a nice little run going here. Roosevelt this week, and then back-to-back home games with Delphi and Clark before they end the regular season with Hammond, a Hammond team that's been kind of depleted, not very deep right now, Eric Schreiber's ball club. And then they end the season with the Mortar Gunners. But this is a chance for Coach Robinson to get a little mojo going there in the Woodbar section of Hammond. And I look for the Gladiators. They've only scored 35 points all year in 4 games with a pair of shutouts. They're going to, I think, score that many points at least in the first half Friday night.
All right, let's move on. Highland, the Trojans, the 3-1 Highland Trojans. On the road, they're playing Lowell. Lowell coming off probably their best all-around game of the season. Highland's 3-1. Haven't played the best competition. Joe, should Lowell be concerned at all about this? Obviously they got the game with Hobart looming in Week 6, but is Lowell going to have any concerns about the 3-1 Trojans, or is this game going to be just another...
Oh, absolutely they should have concerns, JT. They should have a lot of concerns. This Lowell Red Devils team is banged up. I think this is a good week, maybe take the foot off the pedal, rest some of these players, especially Fields, for the big game next week. But other than that, Lowell should have their way all night long.
Here's a trivia question. Can you name the last time the Highland Trojans stood at 3-1 at this point of the season?
1992.
No.
2003.
You're one off, JT. 2002 when...
Ooh.
They were at 3-1 after a win over Lowell, and then went up to 4-1, and then they lost 5 in a row to end the regular season.
And their program's been steadily declining since.
Well, I tell you what, Coach Gardner's done a really nice job though so far. They matched their win total already through the first 4 games of the season, but now they have a very tough stretch. Lowell, Andrean, and then after Griffith, Cavey, and Hobart, those 4 out there, that's going to be a brutal test for the Highland Trojans, and I'm afraid it's going to be a tough go Friday night in the Inferno for the Trojans.
Yeah.
Give me the Red Devils at home. In that environment, with George Field somewhat healthy, look out.
Look out is right. And how about look out for Kankakee Valley? They lost a tough one last week against Hobart, but this is a team that might be onto something, maybe possibly making a late run. Boy, that cheesehead was definitely in trouble for
oh,
most of the
shaking
second.
In that press box,
I was nervous. I thought, oh my gosh.
You were seeing my updates, weren't you?
Yeah, I was looking at it.
Following you closely.
First you updated, it was 21-7 Hobart. I was like, okay, yep, I was right. I knew it. Hobart's got this thing.
And then you saw 21-21. I was like, what?
And then I saw 27-20. I was like, wow, Hobart's going to lose this game. And that's just the thing. This KV team. We just talked about it a few minutes earlier. This team plays so hard. They're well coached, even without Johnny Williams, who I think is their best, all-around athlete. They were still able to put up 27 on Hobart, and they had a chance there at the end. They could have.
I'm not sure what the type of injury for Williams. All I know is we saw from the press box, he had an arm in a sling last week.
That can't be good.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. And he's only played limited duty this year. He's only had like 15 carries all year.
Well, they're playing at Griffith. Griffith, wow. It's just think the last couple of years, this program's really taken a turn for the worse. Tough game last week. They got destroyed by Lowell, and really their defense has given up some high point totals in every game this season.
Last year,
except for the Wheeler game.
Last year was the first time ever that Kankakee Valley beat Griffith in school history. Last year was the first time. The Cougars make it 2 in a row at the Boneyard Friday night.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I love Coach Stewart. Not in that kind of way, but he is a great coach. I think he is, the brains of the operation behind those Lowell Red Devil teams.
So Keegan Higgins stepped it up in the second half last week, filled in the void. He ended up with over 100 yards. He had about 80 of those yards in the second halh, including the 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to put the Cougars into position to win.
Who was that other team?
That was a young kid. Yeah, he had about 30-some-odd yards.
He kind of looked like Tyler Burke. He's built pretty big.
Yeah,
he's a tough runner. And
Coach Call and I were very impressed with them last week.
I believe they shut down Justin Green come Friday night, which is crazy because I think he's the best running back that doesn't get enough carries down there in Griffith.
He's the fastest player in Northwest Indiana.
Oh my God, the kid is explosive. They need to use him in a totally different role than they are, but they're not going to. That's why KV is going to get the job done on Friday night.
Absolutely, great coaching plus hard work equals success. I was kind of dogging KV the last couple of weeks. I'm not dogging them anymore. This KV team's got a chance to win some games down the road. They're definitely going to win this week.
You look at the remaining schedule here for the Cougars. This week, Griffith, then home against North Judson. Then they got to go to Andrean, but then home that finished the regular season with Highland and Munster. This could be an above 500 team come sectional time.
I believe it will be.
Lake Central, they were impressive last week. You talked about it, 23-0 over Crown Point. Maybe it's not a shocker that they beat Crown Point, but I think it's a shocker they won the way they did. They're on the road. They're taking on a struggling LaPorte squad. Still looking for their first victory of the season. Pretty long bus ride from St. John to LaPorte. Is that going to matter, Joe?
No, JT, it's not going to matter, but I'd say the big key to this game is you got to get your sophomore quarterback to limit his turnovers. This kid's got a rifle, cannon, laser arm, okay? If you want to get him some more confidence in this game. You want this to be a confidence builder game for Lake Central. And I think it's going to be. Lake Central's they're going to shut out. I have back-to-back shutouts again. Lake Central's going to win this game, I believe, again, about 28-0.
We got to start talking if they continue to perform the way they're performing. They gave up 27 points against Munster, but I think they only gave up like 150 yards. We got to start talking about where this Lake Central defense ranks in recent memory with some of the other great defenses we've seen in Northwest Indiana history. Those Hobart teams with Tom Kerr, the Portage team in '94 that made a run downstate. Cup Griffith had a few teams in there. Maribel with Zach Wells was playing back in the day or whatnot. I thought LaPorte was going to be they were my choice for most improved team, but for some reason they just haven't put it together. I think Lake Central pitches a shutout Friday night. I mean, there's the young sophomore quarterback starting to find himself a little bit, and if Lake Central can get that offense going, this is a team that can do some damage come October and November.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you guys again. I think I agree with the shutout. LaPorte's offense has struggled all season. They've given up some high point totals. Prior to last week, I really wasn't too impressed with Lake Central as a whole. I didn't think their offense was that good. They narrowly beat Portage, but that win over Crown Point, that really got my attention. This is a defense playing with a lot of swagger. I think I'm with you guys. I think they can score in the 20s. Maybe 4 touchdowns, kind of like what Joe said. I like them to shut out LaPorte. I think this is going to be another statement game for the Indians. Moving to the Greater South Shore Conference, our favorite small school conference in the region. Lake Station, the Fighting Eagles, playing at Calumet. Calumet's been serviceable so far this season. They've been very competitive, even in the games that they've lost. They lost a tough one last week to River Forest, 8-0, but showing a lot more fight than they've shown in the last couple of years. At least, they're a lot more competitive.
The 2 wins for Calumet over Clark and Noonan by 2 points and 7 points, and their losses to Gabbett and River Forest, they lost 14-8 and 8-0. Lake Station has been a turnover machine all year. I know against Lake State or against River Forest, they had, I think, 7 or 8 turnovers. They had that problem again. Rich Lunsford tried to build a program there at Lake Station, Joe. I look for Calumet, and with a win Friday, when was the last time you could say midway through the regular season the Calumet Warriors above 500?
Oh, geez, that had to be, about 4 or 5 years ago?
2008.
2009. 2009.
George Giselle.
Yeah.
It's been a while, though.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I do like this coach at Lake Station. He's a young coach trying to get this team, install that winning attitude over there in Lake Station. But I don't know how much winning attitude there is going on right now. And I think the losing attitude is going to continue, and Calumet's going to take another W.
I'll tell you what, I know Calumet's going to win this game. In fact, I'm so confident.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just kidding.
You were going to do that. I was going to go run out and look for like an asteroid or a comet to come crashing down.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you guys on that one. I got Calumet. Same story. I could see a shutout here. Calumet playing a lot better than they did last year. Lake Station still looking to put it together. I like the Warriors in this one. Moving back to the DAC, and we're kind of shifting back and forth. Maryville, hard fought win. They were very opportunistic last week against Portage. Kind of running a fast break, huddle offense. Playing at Michigan City, this is a Michigan City team that seems like they're on the verge of turning the corner. Lost a tough one to Valpo, 17-7, and then lost, of course, that 17-point lead against Chesterton. But this is a team that's not getting on the door. And this is a team that I think is a threat. Kind of like last year when they beat Lake Central. I think they can come up and bite one of these teams. This could be a trap game for Maryville. Joe, do you see the Pirates having any problems at Ames Field?
You know what, JT? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to take the Wolves in this game, JT.
Wow.
I'm taking the Wolves in an upset special, high-scoring affair. What I saw that quarterback last week from Maryville, turnover machine. Can't hold on to the ball. Michigan City takes advantage of it. It's probably homecoming over there. They're going to go crazy. The stands are going to be packed. Michigan City gets the job done.
I'm not sure, but we're getting to that point of the season, though. We talked about this last week, JT. The fourth quarter collapse a couple weeks ago against Chesterton. How were the Wolves going to react? They were flat last week against Valpo team. That was probably a very winnable game. Last year, Michigan City had a great effort. They were leading in the second half at Maryville, and I think it was like 60. It was a wild score fest last week at Emory Stadium. I think this year Maryville's a little better defensively than they were last year. And I think they're going to find a way to get some big plays. I look for Maryville to win this one comfortably on the road. Something like about a 49-21 type game. I like the Bucks on the road.
Wow, 40. I don't know if they can score 49 on them, but wow.
Well, you've seen the big play capability.
Yeah.
We all agree Andrean's got pretty good defense. They almost won that game with 32 points.
Yeah, it's so hard because I feel like we talked about it. I mean, they have so much talent offensively, but I just don't know what I'm going to see out of Wilkins. Game in and game out. He made some great plays. He also made some really bad mistakes that could have cost Maryville last week. I think Michigan City will stay in this game. I really think that they will make this game competitive because Michigan City's got a pretty explosive offense themselves. I think Maryville escapes with a win, but I think this is going to be closer. This is what as Lee Corso would say, closer than the experts think. I like Maryville, but they're going to have a scare at Ames Field. Now we're moving on to the Boonies. North Judson, probably the best win of the season last week against Boone Grove. Their second victory, 2-2, taking on a Pioneer squad, not quite as good as in years past. This could be a very winnable game for the Blue Jays. If they want to take that next step, I think this is a very important game for them to win. It's going to be tough on the road. What do you feel about Kirk Kennedy's chances?
Well, Pioneer, after getting shellacked the first 2 weeks of the season, losing to Cass and Winnemac by a combined score of 63-8, they have hung the last 2 weeks 66 on South Newton and 62 on Caston. So it looks like the Panthers and Mike Johnson's ball club have righted the ship. North Judson put together a great win last week, Joe, but after a throttle win like that, it's going to be very interesting to see if they can avoid the letdown. And going to Royal Center be a very tough place to play. I'm going to go out, and as much faith that I have in Kirk Kennedy, I'm going to go with Pioneer in this one.
I agree with you, but I have no faith in Kirk Kennedy. I believe he is the most overrated coach.
Wow.
Look, I believe, like I said, Brad Stewart was the mastermind behind those Lowell teams, JT. And look what he did down in Bloomington South. I know he didn't go into the greatest situations, but great coaches make great teams. And I like Pioneer to win this game.
Well, I've kind of been struggling going back and forth this game because I'm kind of with you, Bob, as far as the letdown is concerned. They could have a big letdown. Although I look at those Pioneer wins, those teams that they beat. I'm telling you,
I know they're not the greatest teams.
They're bad football teams.
But Pioneer, bounce back after those first two, though.
I'm crazy. I've seen some Pioneer film. They're definitely not quite as talented. They're not as dynamic offensively as they've been the last few years. They just don't have as much talent, especially at the running back position. They lost Matt Doors, who's probably the best big play guy. I think North Judson on the road, I think they pull off, maybe we call this an upset, a minor upset. I think North Judson on the road wins a close one, maybe like a 16-14 type game. I don't think their offense, goes off like they did against Boone, but I like Judson in a close one on the road. How about this matchup? River Forest on the road at North Newton. This is a 3-1 ingot team we're talking about, Bob. They're looking to go 4-1.
Yeah.
Taking on a Spartan club, they've kind of had their struggles the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they lost to Wheeler. That was the first win for the Bearcats this year, trying to break a 3-game skid. They put 48 points on South Noonan, but this is a team for North Noonan. They're averaging 29 points a game, but they're giving up 44 points a game. I don't know if the Ingots can score that many points. It's a long bus trip from New Chicago to Morocco. And you know what? I'm going to show a little faith. I think it's going to be a barn-burning game. River Forest coming off an 8-0 win. I see North Newton winning a squeaker at home Friday night.
You know what? Andy filled us in some great information here. River Forest may have some troubles.
Okay.
But I like the Ingots, okay? I'm going to tell you why.
Tell me why. I want to hear it.
Inquiring minds want to know.
We got to know.
I just got a hunch, okay? North Newton, it's a far drive. The kids, I just don't know, okay? I don't know anything about these teams. I don't follow River Forest or North Newton a lot. But, hey, I'm taking the Ingots. Why? Because I just want to see them win.
All right. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Expert analysis here on this program.
He's not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks.
8-0. They beat Calumet 8-0. But I think Calumet's a better team than North Newton is right now. And actually, I think they beat North Newton, didn't they? Calumet?
Yeah.
Yeah. River Forest beat Calumet. Calumet beat North Newton. Therefore, River Forest should.
They're the team that beat the team that beat the team.
Yes, the team that beat the team that beat the team is gonna beat this team this Friday night.
You're gonna be there.
I'm not gonna be there, but River Forest. I'll take the Ingots on the road. I look at the competition, who they've beaten. Calumet's improved. I think their defense will hold down North Newton a little bit. I'll take the Ingots on the road. How about this matchup? Bob, you know a lot about this matchup. St. Francis de La Salle's taking on the Lew Wallace Hornets. I got to apologize. We did not break down that Lew Wallace game last week. I totally forgot to put it on my list. They did win, by the way, over Cassopolis, Michigan. I think it was like 30-27. Bob, what do you think about this matchup? Another out-of-state game. You've seen these Gary teams playing a lot of Illinois and Michigan squads.
Normally, I would call this a coin flip game, but I'm not going to flip my coin. I'm going to go with De La Salle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Lew Wallace. I'll take anyone against Lew Wallace.
Well, Cassopolis didn't do it. I guess I'll take St. Francis as well. I don't have a lot of faith in the Hornets right now, although they don't even play a full schedule. They're off 2 or 3 weeks this season. I think they've only played 2 games.
Yeah, they're playing the rest of the way this year.
That's
Roosevelt, East Chicago, West Side, and Fort Wayne South the rest of the year.
Okay. There's another game down south. Twin Lakes taking on Rensselaer. You gotta give Rensselaer some credit. We didn't talk about this at the top of the program, but how about their big win over Tipton, 9-7 at home. This is a team you definitely gotta start taking seriously in 2A. We all know how good that Tipton Ball Club is.
Twin Lakes is having a nice year. Yeah. They're 3-1. Only lost at the Lafayette Central Catholic, which is a respectable 16-point loss.
Yeah.
Wins over Logansport, a triple overtime win at the Yard over the Frankfurt Hot Dogs. And last week they enlightened the Delphi Oracles.
Wow.
Forget about it. I like Coach Meeks a lot. I think he may be one of the. Like I said, JT, we had a great show about is Rensselaer part of the region. If they are, I believe Coach Meeks is a top 3 coach in the region. And I like Coach Meeks and the Bombers to get the job done.
They might be the team to beat locally in 2A.
Oh, I would agree with that. As much as I hate to say this, I think I'm going to go Twin Lakes on an upset.
Really?
Rensselaer comes off of a big emotional high off of that win over Tipton. But you know what happens a lot?
The game's in Rensselaer.
I know it's at Rensselaer. But I think they have a little bit of an emotional letdown. And as you mentioned, Twin Lakes is improved. They're having a better season, and I don't know if Twin Lakes beat them last year or not, but
I can look up here or whatnot. That game was played at the reservation last year down there in Monticello. I actually covered a game there once. I know you guys are happy for me.
I know I don't.
It was about 15 years ago, a regional championship game when Andrean won on a field goal with about 2 minutes left in the game down there. Last year, it was Rensselaer falling to Twin Lakes 18-0.
18-0.
And that was the last win Twin Lakes had last year.
Well, I think Rensselaer closes the gap. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to say Twin Lakes in a close one. Meat grinder, Indians. I'll take them. Valparaiso, Chesterton. Both of these squads are 2-0 in the conference.
Who would have thought?
One of these teams is going to be 3-0 in the DAC. That makes this we're not going to have it as a big 3 game, but this is a big game if we're talking conference play. Because, regardless of who they've beaten the first couple weeks, at least up to this point, you have to take these teams seriously as contenders because one of them is going to be 3-0 after this week. Joe, Bob, Valpo, Chesterton, kind of some highs and lows. Chesterton, obviously, a tough loss the first week of the season. They bounced back strong.
I posed this question to you last week, JT. I'll pose the question right now to Joe. Is Cole Teal the best quarterback right now in the Dillon Conference? He might be.
I'm going to have to think about this for 1 second. I believe he's playing at the best level right now.
There's some good quarterbacks. But obviously, you got...
I wouldn't take him over Jake Jadis. I'd still take Crown Point's quarterback. If I had a big game, I'm still taking Crown Point's quarterback. But Cole Teal is playing at the best level of all these guys.
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. It's a really, really hard question to answer. Obviously, he's a great runner. He's a good dual threat guy, but it's hard to say. But we talk about this matchup here. Valpo, Joe, I know you talked. I didn't even know about this. I didn't pay attention to it. Valpo's got some suspensions, players that haven't been dressing. So you said they're kind of down to their third string.
Yeah, I heard they're down to looks like their third string guy in their depth chart. But he actually has been playing pretty well lately. And he's playing so well this way. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb, JT. I'm going to say this is my second upset, okay?
All right.
I believe Valpo will upset Chesterton in this week. I got no faith in Coach Peterson at all, JT. I just like Valpo to go in there and take the W.
Well, he's got a team that fits his style of play. Chesterton is already molded to play the way that he wants to run. I still think Chesterton at home. I think Chesterton's playing a little bit better overall. I think that win against Munster was nice. I know that they come from behind against Michigan City. They looked a little bit better last week. I think Chesterton at home. It's going to be a competitive game. It's always a good game when they play. I'll take the Trojans.
It's been interesting. Valparaiso last year gave up 48 points at home to this Chesterton team. And, of course, last time here at the field of Troy, it was a 10-point win for Chester. I believe they were down something like 21-7. They scored 24 unanswered points. Avery Beeks had a huge game. Cole Teal, and I know you picked Valpo. I think you picked Chesterton.
Yep.
Guess what? I'm going to whip this bad boy out.
His Heisman Trophy.
It's the power play, the total power play of the week. I like Chesterton at home.
Does that say Tom Harmon on it?
Yes, it does. The only Heisman Trophy winner out of Indiana ever.
That's from the state of Indiana?
Yeah. And you know what high school he attended? Lou Wallace.
I thought it was Horseman.
Or what's that? Horseman.
It
was Horseman. Never mind. Lou Wallace was where Hank Strand went.
Yeah.
There you go. I got my...
You don't see Gary, showing any love to those guys.
Oh, well. You should have a statue out in front of City Hall.
But anyhow, my power play of the week is Chesterton over Valpo.
All right. So if Joe goes against it, I'm going to stay with it. Let's go back to the Greater South Shore Conference. A couple of interesting games. Wheeler and South Central, the two Klimzak brothers.
Klimzak Bowl, baby.
Yeah, and...
two!
Wow. You got a South Central team that came so close to upsetting Whiting. Wheeler, they get their first win of the season. Both of these programs, really struggling right now. Which brother gets it done? It's at Union Mills. I feel like Wheeler's. If we go back to last season, Wheeler lost their first three games, and they went on a 6-game winning streak.
And then they ran into Andrean. It was
yep.
over.
Can they do that again this year?
I think so. South Central's been competitive in most of their losses, and you got, again, the fashion that they lost last week, Joe. What effect will it have on South Central this week as they take on Wheeler? They're going to be home. A Wheeler team that's finally into the win column. They've been a little banged up too as well. For some reason, I have nothing. I just have a feeling South Central is going to be fired up with a chip to prove. I think this time the Clivzack Bulls going to be even up at 1-1. I like Dan over Tony in LaPorte County.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I'll take the better of the two coaches out of the brothers. I'm taking Dan Clivzack all day long.
Oh,
baby.
Wow.
Ouch. Oh, man.
Keep in mind, these do not represent the views of Mid-America Broadcasting LLC.
All right. Well, all right. Well, having said that, I go back to last season. Wheeler made a couple of adjustments. They had a quarterback change, I think after their second or third loss. They're on a 6-game winning streak. I still think Wheeler is the better team. You look at who they had to play the first 3 weeks. They had a pretty tough schedule to start the season, but they rebounded well last week. I think on the road, I think South Central, that's going to be a demoralizing loss they had last week. The way they lost to Whiting, that could really kill a football team, kill the morale. I like Wheeler on the road.
Just think in mind, the one troubling point, if you're a Wheeler fan, they're the one team that did not do anything against a very porous Griffith defense.
That is true. That is very true. All right, it's time for the big 3 games of the week. I know, that's how I make a 3.
And 3 is the magic number.
3 is the magic number. And let's stay in the Greater South Shore Conference. Bob, you talked when we were talking before the show. We said let's make Whiting and Knoll a big 3 game because this is the conference championship.
It's more than likely the conference championship.
I think so. I might have to agree with you on that. Whiting's 4-0. Not quite as impressive in some of these games as they were last season. They've had nail-biter games. They kind of had a flat first half against Clark.
They've been fighting the first half of every game this year, guys.
And last week had to come from behind. They were fortunate to come back from behind and beat South Central. This could be a trap game for the Oilers. Bishop Knoll. They improved steadily last season. Seem to be improving a little bit now. Can Bishop Knoll pull off an upset at home?
I think they got a good shot at doing it. Bishop Knoll, outside of their opening game where they played Andrean and got smoked, they've been at every game. Almost handed Boone Grove a loss, losing by 5, and then South Central Lake Station comfortable. So that Lake Station game, they were tied at 10 at the half last week, but again, getting some opportunistic plays and turnovers last week to pull away there in the second half. Whiting, I don't think in their games this year, Joe, they've struggled mightily. Against Clark, they were only up 3-0 at the half. They were trailing Wheeler in the first half. They were trailing South Central most of the game last week before they went and scored late. And Ethan Young had a huge game on the ground last week for Jeff Cade's ball club. I think this is going to be a heck of a game. Greater South Shore Conference Championship on the line. I'm going with the upset. I like Bishop Knoll to win at home Friday night.
I'm a big believer in Coach Kane. He's been a great regular season coach, I say that. Look at his stats, all right? One of the highest win totals in regular seasons. They can't get the job done in postseason, but this is a regular season game, and he's going to get the job done against Bishop Knoll, JT. I guarantee it.
All right. Is that your Slim Shady pick of the week?
If you want to call it that.
I don't know. You got the shades on your head. You should just pull them down for my...
Whiting.
All right, big W for Whiting.
Wow.
Here's the deal. Whiting's not going to have another competitive game the rest of this regular season. They're going to play all the bottom feeder teams in the Greater South Shore Conference the rest of the season. They have to get things turned around right now. They need to play their best all-around game of the season. I think Coach Kane definitely is going to have their attention this week. I think he knows in the back of his mind, look, every other game we play this season is going to be lopsided. I got to see what we are capable of right now against a pretty decent Bishop Knoll squad. So I think the Oilers come out, play with a little chip on their shoulder, and I like the Oilers to win this by a couple of touchdowns. Let's move on to the second game in our Big 3. This is a game that's kind of been talked about. I've kind of browsed some message boards, and people are kind of talking about this game. Munster taking on Morton. Munster's had a really nice turnaround from last year. If you guys remember, they only won 2 games a year ago. They're already, they came out, on fire. Big win over Lake Central in week 1. Kind of slipped against Chesterton, but they've been, pretty good the last couple of weeks. They lost a tough one to Andrean, but this is definitely an improved squad. Taking on one of the better defenses in the area, maybe the best 4A defense in the area in Morton.
Munster only won 2 games last year, gentlemen. 1 of the 2 was against Morton. Last year, 21-7 at Munster High School.
Something to keep in mind. But
hey, Munster's won the last 2 meetings in this series.
Let's keep something in mind. They might have an injury situation. We don't know for sure if Gutwein's going to play for Munster. He's probably their most dynamic player, or at least skill player that they have. If he's not playing, that definitely changes things for their offense. Joe, is Munster going to be able to score enough points to win this game?
You know what, JT? I don't think so. And to be honest, I think this game's going to get ugly. And I believe Morton is going to score early and often. Morton's defense is too good. Munster, more than likely, is not going to be playing with number 8, Gutwein. And I believe Morton's going to take full advantage of that. They're going to win this game by 20.
I'll tell you what, Joe, I think I got to agree with you on that. I don't think Munster has a dynamic offensive attack, to be honest with you. Morton, their defense, they impressed me so well on the defensive side of the ball. We talked about it earlier. There's a few teams out there that have some great offenses. Hobart's got a great offense. I love defense because I know defense can keep even adequate offense in any game. Morton has a better than adequate offense. I think they have a pretty good offense. Torrey Armstrong's steadily improving every week. This Morton team is legitimate, and this might be the best defense I've ever seen on a Morton squad. I like the Governors. I think I'm with you. I like them by 20 or 21 points. Their defense, I wouldn't be shocked if Munster got shut out or if they scored 1 touchdown.
I think one thing, sometimes these kids play like high school kids, and it's going to be interesting to see what type of focus Roy Richards Ball Club's going to have with East Chicago waiting next week. Is Morton going to be looking ahead a little bit? I think Morton's going to win this game, but I think it's going to be a closer game than you think. Munster's a pretty good defense. Morton's got a great defense. I just look for Morton. I see this being like a 21-7 type ball game.
I'll bring up one other point. Look what they did last week. They destroyed him, and they won 45-0. And keep in mind, this was a Hammond team that beat them a year ago.
And it's a Hammond team that right now barely has 30 kids on the roster.
I'm just saying.
They got about 8 kids going both ways.
I'm just saying they made a big statement. That's their biggest, biggest
I'm sorry, when you got a
rival.
3-1 advantage on bodies, you should win 45-0.
Well, I'm just saying I think they made a big statement last week in their performance. Complete game from Morton. I know Hammond's eyes, quite the team that they were a year ago, but still, I think Morton, they're starting to play up to their potential. Their offense is starting to catch up with their defense.
I like
defense
Morton.
Started off strong.
Morton might have 2 scores, but it might be closer than you think.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody knows what this. Everybody knows. This game of the week. People have been talking about this game for
Emerson Frable. Oh.
I'm just.
Never
obviously,
This is the 1940s.
Hobart barely got by last week, but they are 4-0. What matters is, people have said on my page, hey, they're not playing their best ball, but they are 4-0. So I got to give them that. They're 4-0. They're playing Andrean, who I think, probably been a little bit more impressive, especially, margin of victory. They've pretty much been taking care of everybody, and they have a win over Maryville, which obviously very impressive, to say the least. This could be the NCC championship game potentially. Lowell might be able to come up and bite one of these squads. I don't know, but certainly this is definitely got game of the year material. We're talking about Andrean, Maryville. This is kind of that same deal, except this is in conference, so this becomes even a bigger game. First of all, I want to know who needs this game more. Who's this game more important to? Is it more important for Hobart or is it more important for Andrean?
I think it's equally both. I think so. Both teams have aspirations of conference championships. They both tied for the conference championship last year. Andrean's got a chip on their shoulder after losing to Hobart last year in a game that really Andrean had command of, but their special teams let them down, and Hobart was able to take advantage with a kick return for a touchdown. They had a defensive pick six, and Hobart clinched the game in the closing moments on a 50-yard Aaron Del Grosso field goal. They don't have Aaron Del Grosso now because he's out at IU, but Plezak has been automatic on extra points the last 2 weeks. He can probably hit field goals from within 35 yards. But, Joe, right now, there is nobody else in Northwest Indiana playing at the level Matt DeSilver's playing for Andrean right now at quarterback. He is in the zone.
He is the best player in the region right now. If there's a Heisman Trophy, just give it to him. Maybe he might be a runner. He might be.
You mean this?
Let's give him your Heisman
There
Trophy.
you go.
Give it to DeSomer right here. But in reality, I think he is a candidate for Mr. Football in Indiana, as good as he's playing right now.
Especially if Andrean makes a run and if they win 3. Remember that Watica kid from West Lafayette? They were 3A team. They won state, and he ended up winning Mr. Football.
And when Andrean won state, Tommy Finn was the runner-up that year for Mr. Football to Jason Warner from Roncalli.
So I think if that is to happen, I think Andrean has to run the table for him to have any chance.
So that's why I believe this game is a lot bigger for Andrean than it is Hobart. Andrean also, like I said, they got a chip on their shoulder. They lost by a field goal last year.
Well, it was a 9-point game, but the field goal.
I mean, they lost a field goal from the Hobart's
kicker. They basically took away their chance to win.
Yes, that's why JT. But then again, Hobart also needs it too. I mean, look at all the naysayers out there saying, "Oh, Hobart, they can't stop anything." And Griffith running up and down the field on them, and I believe Hobart needs it just as much. I think it's equals, but I tell you, JT, in my pick in this game, Andrean is going to win this game big. When I mean big, I'm talking 3 to 4 touchdowns big.
I love the playmakers on both sides of the field. Obviously, Matt DeSilver, but he's got weapons galore on offense. Obviously, Petkovich, the tight ends, had a big year. Donovan Chandler's had a big year. Berg in the running game. And the moving from Mount Carmel Barajas, he's a real deal. I know he's a linebacker, but he's made, in the Maryville game, he made plays at tight end in that game as well. For Hobart, Barris has had a very solid year. There may not be a better playmaker on the field outside of DeSilver than Dre Devereaux, who got the game-winning touchdown. Noah Smith has been huge running the ball in the first couple. I see a lot of points in this game, but in the end, what I think the difference in this game is going to be, Andrean defensively is a little bit better. Hobart still has some issues. Last week, Andrean won 41-27. I can see that being the same type of game this week at 59-59 Broadway. Niners win this one. Not on a runaway. It's not going to be a close game, but like a 2-touchdown type of game. I see the 59ers taking care of business.
I think you guys make a couple of very valid points. I've really been thinking about this game ever since last week. I look at Hobart. Okay, they're 4-0. Okay, I can't take it away from them. They're 4-0. They have had a lot of close, nail-biting games. The problem with them, okay, this is supposed to be the easy part of their schedule. The schedule is going to get tougher. Okay, think about it. After this week, they got Lowell. Then they got to play Morton in week 8. They still have Munster. That's always a tough game. I mean, this 4-game stretch for Hobart is going to be really, really tough. And they've really struggled with the first 4 teams on their schedule. They've won all 4 games, but I mean, they easily could be 2-2 right now. I was not impressed with their defensive effort last week against KV. KV probably had their best. Well, I mean, obviously KV played manual, but it's like playing a lower level team.
It's like an FCS school.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is Hobart's defense cannot keep playing the way it's playing in order for them to make a deep run in the postseason. And honestly, I could see them losing at least 2 of these next 4 games with how that defense has performed. I don't see it getting any better this week. They're facing probably the toughest offense to defend against in Northwest Indiana because of how dynamic DeSomer is with his ability to run and throw the football. That read option is incredibly hard to stop, and especially with the arm that DeSomer has, he can beat you deep. He's so dynamic. This team is by far the best team they've played. I don't think Hobart's defense is going to be able to stand up to this Morton squad or to this Andrean squad. I'm telling you right now, Hobart's not winning this game. They tried to let me down last week. I mean, they tried to give that game away to KB. I'm not losing the cheese this time. I'm going with what I know works. I'm taking Andrean, and I'm telling you right now, it's a lock. It's a cheesehead lock.
The 2 toughest games that Andrean's had so far this year are probably the Andrean game and then the Munster game last week. Matt DeSomer in those 2 games has 1,000 yards of offense. That's insane.
It's
insane.
Yeah, and Hobart has. I mean, you think about it. Griffith had their best offensive game against Hobart. Westside, that game was extremely competitive until the fourth quarter. Westside was right there, hung with them, and it took overtime to beat LaPorte, who I think is the worst team in the DAC. Okay, they're it's not style points don't matter necessarily. It comes to wins and losses early in the season, but when we get to the latter part of the season, when you play the tougher teams on your schedule, it's going to come back to bite you. You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
And we mentioned you can listen to the game Friday night on Mid-America Broadcasting.
Yeah, that's right. Mid-America Broadcasting, incredibly nice, beat-up banner we have here. Bob and...
Coach Gald, and I think Rich Snapper might make an appearance.
Well,
it's going to be a crap press box, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what, it's definitely going to be a game to watch, especially offensively. I'm not saying Andrean's going to shut down Hobart. Hobart's going to put up some points. But that defense is writing a check that the offense will not be able to cash.
Kind of remind you of the 1998 UCLA Bruins. The Cade down leg, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were stressed every week. Okay, we scored 42 points and the defense will get 40 up.
Yeah, and it came back to bite them the last game.
And they got ran over by Rod Day to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, that was a great comparison, I believe, UCLA and Hobart.
You look at it, I kind of alluded to Maryville. Maryville kind of played by the same way last year. Their offense, put up big numbers every single week, and their defense gave up a lot of points. But
when they needed to, they got stops.
But they got to all the way to the semi-state. But the formula that worked so many weeks eventually went against them because they lost a shootout type game. I think Hobart's defense, if they want to go anywhere in the playoffs, I'm telling you right now, this defense has to get better. I think St. Joe's a pretty good squad. New Prairie's been very impressive so far. It's not a slam dunk that Hobart's going to win this sectional. That defense has got to start showing some heart and playing with some swagger, or else they're going to start losing some games, especially this 4-game stretch they have right now.
Well, JT, I think the coach is going to pop this film in and use this as a little bit of motivation going into Friday night.
I hope so.
And I got my sources at Hobart, too.
Facts are facts. I watched the game from last week. Bob Groh does a great job. New concept video. He does all the Hobart games. They had an interview with Nick Boken after the game, and he said, "You know what? It's not good enough. We got to pick it up on defense." He's absolutely right. And if they want any hopes of winning this game, they can't give up, 35 or 42 points to this Andrean offense. They got to somehow find a way to get some stops. That's their only chance. They're not going to beat this team in a shootout. Their defense has to step up.
Alrighty then.
All right, well, that's our segment of the show for this week. I want to thank Bob and Joe, and for JT. That's our show for this week. And let us know what you guys think in the comments section. If you guys agree or disagree with our picks. So until next time, so long.